Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heidi if you're here for the first time. If you're new here, please consider subscribing to my channel. And thank you so much to everyone who has already subscribed. I really appreciate it. Today I'm going to create this makeup look that Adele posted on her Instagram, which is so stunning. It's just like an all matte neutral makeup look. And I'm going to be using only drugstore products. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, then please give this video a thumbs up and let's just get started. The eye makeup is pretty dark, so I'm going to start with the eyes today. And the palette that I'm going to be using is this Beauty Bay Nude Matte palette, which is so pretty, super pigmented, has a really good size mirror in it too, and it's just a perfect nude palette. Like, how often do you find a nude palette that has actually a gray in it too? Like, gray eyeshadow is so hard to find. So when I saw this online, I just had to get it, and I haven't really been able to put it down. I've been using this like every day. It's very versatile, and I also feel like it's relatively neutral. There are like a couple of shades that are a little bit more warm, but because it has that gray as well, you can kind of neutralize the warmth of the eyeshadows if you like more of a cool toned eye or a neutral eye like I do. But today Adele's makeup is actually pretty warm, so I think this palette will be perfect for creating that look. Also, this light eyeshadow here is probably the only eyeshadow I've ever used that's actually able to like really brighten up this inner corner area for me, because I have a big shadow right here because of this like little skin fold thing that I have there. So I have really loved this palette, and it's all matte, just a great quality. I hadn't tried anything from Beauty Bay before, but I'm so happy I picked this up. But before we get to the eyeshadow, I'm gonna do the brows and then prime the eyes with some concealer, and then we'll do the eyeshadow and liner and lashes and all that. She typically has pretty dark brows, so I'm gonna be using this Essence Eyebrow Designer brow pencil in dark chocolate brown. You've seen me use this a couple of times if you're a subscriber, and I really like it. I think it's a really nice quality pencil. It doesn't really move throughout the day. It's not like too creamy, you know, when it would be like sliding on the skin all the time. I really like it. Really great basic pencil, and I think it was like £1.50 or something like that. Super affordable as well. She has really neat, sleek brows, and it looks like they were brushed up. I'm going to be drawing lightly a straight line under the brow to really define the shape. And then I'm just going to be filling it in, and not really like coloring it in, but just making like hair-like strokes and using a very light hand because my brows are pretty light, so they do get dark pretty quickly. We're not trying to create like a block brow, so very lightly making short little lines mimicking the brow hairs. I'm gonna use a little bit more pressure on the areas that are more sparse, like right here I have a little bit of a sparse area, so if I use a little bit more pressure while I'm doing the little lines there, it's gonna make that area a little bit darker, and then it's gonna match the rest of my brow. And then when I'm getting closer to the front of the brow, I'm gonna use a lighter hand, and I'm gonna do fewer lines. I'm gonna draw a little bit less the closer to the front of the brow I'm getting. You could also just use a powder for this, and it will fill the brows in nicely. I'm gonna brush through the brow with a spoolie, fluff the brow hairs up, and see where I need a little bit more color. So here is a little empty spot. I'm gonna fill that in, as well as right here. Then I'm gonna brush through the brows again, like that, and I think I'm pretty happy with that. I'm gonna extend the brow just a little bit closer. You know, I love using my Schwarzkopf Got to Be Glued hair gel as a brow gel, but lately I don't know if it's because I've had that gel for such a long time, or maybe I just haven't noticed it before, but I've never really had a problem with like with the white residue on the brows, but lately I've had a problem with that, and the hair gel just kind of keeps like rolling off my skin. I don't really know what's going on, But yesterday I tried the old hairspray hack for the brows, and it did keep my brows in place. I had my makeup on from about 7 in the morning till maybe 7 in the evening, so 12 hours. First I tried the regular Elnet hairspray and it didn't even hold my brows up at all. So then I used this Pantene Pro V Ultra Strong Hold hairspray, and it really did the trick. So I just spray the spoolie and then I brush the brow hairs up. Now I'm gonna clean up under the brow and also put concealer on the rest of the eyelid to prep it for the eyeshadow. And this makeup look that she's wearing is pretty contrasty. I feel like that's really her kind of vibe. That's what she normally does anyway. So I'm gonna use a lighter concealer today. This is the L'Oreal Infallible More Than Concealer in Porcelain. It is probably the lightest shade in this concealer range. And I'm gonna pick up some concealer with my Smashbox Precise Concealer brush. I'll just pick some up from the wand and draw a line under the brow. And then I will blend the concealer downwards. And I'm gonna bring the concealer all the way to the side of the nose here, because the eyeshadow goes all the way to the bridge of the nose. And since I haven't done my face yet, this will be my base, and I'm not gonna apply any like foundation on this area. I'll just use the concealer. And I typically like to pat the concealer with my finger, and it just kind of like melts it into the skin. And whatever is left on the brush, I didn't pick up any more concealer. I will just put on top of the brow to brighten that area as well, since I don't typically apply my foundation too close to the brows anyway, because I use very little on my forehead. And now we're gonna use some eyeshadow. So first, I'm gonna use this second lightest shade here that's called Bare Necessity, and a relatively big blending brush from BH Cosmetics. And I'm just gonna lightly tap into this shadow because these are very, very pigmented, and just tap off the excess and put this on the crease. I'm trying not to go too high here on the outer corner and go closer to the brow on the inner corner. Mostly sticking to that crease shape, but going kind of in an angle like this. So higher here, closer to the brow, and then blend it downwards. And leave this area very bright. And here I'm blending it all the way to the actual brow and to the side of the bridge of the nose. And like I mentioned, these eyeshadows are very pigmented, so I would suggest just kind of lightly tapping on the eyeshadow, tap off the excess, and then just build it up. Do this multiple times, and then you can get a very beautiful blend very easily. Just do like light layers, and just keep layering it on until you have the intensity that you want. Now I'm going in with a smaller blending brush. This is also from BH Cosmetics. So this one was the first that I used, and now this is the one that I'm about to use, so it's about half the size. I'm gonna use this shade right here. This is called Cinnamon. Very fall appropriate. And I'm going to deepen that crease. And on the inner corner, or closer to the nose, I'm not gonna go all the way to where my actual crease is, but I will kind of create a line up towards my brow, because she does have this area very, very bright. Now later, we're gonna brighten it up even more with this eyeshadow, which doesn't really require a concealer under, which is really great because it is so pigmented. But if you are using a different palette, then you might want to add a little bit of concealer under. And again, all the way to the front of the brow and towards the nose, or on the side of the bridge of the nose. We're not going here as high as the previous shade because that would ruin that blend that we have. So this is going a little bit closer to the actual crease here, and then on the actual crease on the outer corner. And you can always go back in with the previous brush that you used, the previous blending brush, and just not apply any extra eyeshadow on it. and blend these two shades together. It creates an even softer blend. I just want to add a tiny bit more depth to the very crease, or to the bottom of this line that we created. I'm gonna use this BH Cosmetics brush, and you can see it's pretty much the same as the previous brush that I used, but it has a little bit of the smaller bristles and it's a little bit more dense as well, so it's not going to blend that shade, whatever I put there, as like far out as this previous one. So I'm gonna dip into slow motion, tap off the excess and start from the outer corner and really just create a bit more depth here under this line. So that's what we have so far. We have created that depth in the crease and that shadow, and now I'm gonna go in with this lightest shade in the palette, which is called Nothing Else, and this is a shading brush, so it's a little bit more flat. I'm gonna pick up a little bit of this shadow, and first I'm going to apply it here under the brow. This is such a pretty cream shade. And then I'm using the same shade and the same brush as well, and I'm gonna go in the inner corner, and we want to create this shape that's above our crease to open the eyes a bit more. So first you can just tap this on the inner corner of the lid, and I'm on purpose going to go a little higher here. I'm applying this on the inner corner as well. And now that that lightness is there, I'm gonna take a smaller shading brush. So that was the first one that I used, and I'm using this one. This is by Gosh. I'm gonna get a little bit more product, but still tapping off the excess and trying to sharpen that line. And again, in this part you can use concealer if your light eyeshadow isn't that pigmented. This is kind of like a half cut crease going above the actual crease, and then we are blending this shade on the rest of the lid to the actual lid and down. I'm not going all the way to the outer corner, but almost, and I'm not going above that dark shade that I put in the crease. If you want, you can take another brush. This is an eyeshadow brush, but it kind of looks like a concealer brush. It's very flat and dense, and I'm gonna pick up a little bit of the shade Cinnamon, tap off the excess and just trace that line to make it a little bit sharper. And you don't necessarily need to do this if you have used concealer. I'm gonna do the eyeliner next, and then I might go back in a little bit in the crease with this darker shade, Slow Motion, that I used in the very crease before. I will see how it looks with the liner on first, and then I'll just tweak it if I need to. There are a couple different ways how you can do the eyeliner. You can use a liquid eyeliner or using a gel liner pencil like this one from LA Girl. This is the LA Girl Glide Gel Liner. You can use a gel liner like the Maybelline gel liner in that little pot. That would work really well. I think hers probably was done with a gel liner and then it was probably set with a black eyeshadow just because it is so matte. I don't think a liquid eyeliner was necessarily used, but you could get a very similar effect with that as well. And it might be a little bit quicker because you don't need to set a liquid liner. I'm gonna use the gel liner pencil today, and I just sharpened it. So the inner corner is made very sharp, so it is just a little bit extended. I'm gonna put this very close to the lash line and kind of on the waterline of that inner corner to really emphasize that shape there. And then a very thin line on the lash line. This is very sleek at the inner corner, and then it gets like thicker and thicker on the outer corner. And then I'm actually going on the lower lash line and applying a little bit of this there, just to the very lash line, and only about a third or fourth in. And this space in the middle I'm leaving without any eyeliner. And then I'm just continuing this shape that I did here, just following the natural shape towards the end of the brow. She does have a pretty big wing. You can start a little bit smaller and then just build it up if you have trouble, especially with like matching the shapes as we all do on each side. And then I will bring this down and see if I like that shape. I'm doing this part with my eyes open so I can really see the shape. And then I'm just gonna color this in and see if I need to change anything. I'm going to straighten this whoopy part here. And there, that is the shape that I want. And this one is pretty self-setting, as is the Maybelline gel liner, the little pot, if that's what you're using. But just because it has that tiny bit of stickiness, I'm gonna use an angle liner brush. This is also by BH Cosmetics, and dip into Illuminating, which is the matte black in this palette. And just tap off all the excess and lightly tap this on top of that gel liner. It's just gonna ensure that this is very, very matte and very black. If you have very watery eyes like I do, then using a gel liner in the inner corner especially would probably be the longest lasting option. And then I'm using the same gel liner and just go between the lashes to ensure that the lash line itself is very dark, so that there's not this black thick liner and then a little bit of like lightness under it between your lashes and the liner. Okay, that is the eyeliner done. I'm gonna go back in with a tiny bit of this shade Slow Motion and just a small blending brush. Just one tap and tap off the excess and put this on the very crease, the outer corner. Next I'm gonna curl my lashes. And if you're like me and your eyeliner always gets in the eyelash curler, then you might wanna go back in and just fill in that gap. This always happens to me no matter what, if I use gel liner, liquid liner, eyeliner pencil, eyeshadow, it always happens. It is probably the kind of shape of the curler, so I might have to get a new one of those. For mascara, I'm using the L'Oreal Volume Million Lashes Balm Noir, and her lashes seem very kind of invisible almost on the inner corner, and then the outer corner is fluffier, so even though I have some new lashes that I really want to try that I haven't used yet, like these Eylure Luxe 3D lashes and Eylure Dramatic lashes, which are so pretty. Supertruck was very nice to send me these. I have not tried those yet, but they're too big because they're big on the inner corner as well. I just need a little fluff on the outer corner. I also have these Adele texturized lashes with a really thin or clear lash band. That are so pretty, but I think I will do the same as last week. If you saw last week's video, just gonna use a couple of random pieces of lash on the outer corner, just little clusters, and that will be it. But the mascara that I'm using is the L'Oreal Volume Million Lashes Balm Noir Mascara, and I'm only applying this on the top lashes, focusing on the outer corner. I actually have a couple of new eyelash glues that Superdrug also sent over. These are the Eylure 18-hour lash glues in clear and in black. I've actually never tried a black eyelash glue. I've always had a clear one, so I think I will be using this black one today. These are both latex free. And oh, that's interesting. They don't actually have a brush. It's just a plastic stick, which should work fine. Maybe this one is a little bit stronger than that Beauty Coupe one that I've been using, because that one isn't very strong. I just noticed when I was using it one day, and it's really, really windy here in the UK right now because, you know, fall. So maybe this one will be a little bit stronger. So probably from like Wispies or something like that, these little clusters. So I'm applying a little bit of that lash glue on the lash band. So by the way, Eylure tweezers as well. They have a little comb at the end. You can use it for brows or for mascara. And Superdrug sent me these as well, which was very nice of them. And just picking it up from like the end of the lash and sticking it to the outer corner. And since we have that black eyeliner and also the black lash glue, it seems like it is pretty seamless looking. Sometimes if you use a clear lash glue, you still have to kind of go on top of it with a liquid liner or something to make it a little bit less obvious. Let's do a little bit of a shorter lash cluster right next to it. And then I like to pinch the lashes to my natural lashes with the tweezers, but you have to be careful to not poke your eye with them. Use maybe like older tweezers that you have that are like a little bit more dull. But yeah, that's the little fluff on the outer corner. You can also just buy those like accent lashes that they sell nowadays, because that was very popular, and it's only the outer corner. It will give you the same effect, and it will probably be a little bit more seamless even than just applying like random clusters on the outer corner like I am. So let's move on to the face. I talked about this primer a couple of weeks back, I think. This is the Prep and Perfect Balancing Priming Gel. It's very lightweight, and actually I think it works for like normal and oily skin pretty well. My skin has been incredibly dry lately. I did buy this Prep and Prime Hydrating and Refreshing Priming Gel, which is really, really lovely. It has a kind of a strange texture. It feels kind of silicone on the skin, but it works just fine. This is also, I would think, more for like a normal to dry skin. But because my skin is so dry at the moment, I'm going to use the Revlon Rose Glow Hydrating and Illuminating Primer. This has been working the best for me at the moment. You can see how much I've used it. It's almost in the end. It isn't my favorite primer just because I've told you about this before, but it has these little like beads in it that don't really break once you apply this on the face, so you kind of end up having to pick them off of the face. But it is definitely like adds a glow to the skin, and it is hydrating. And it does actually make my makeup last a little bit longer too. It's a little bit like sticky feeling. But yeah, I'm not a fan of these little like beads that don't really blend into the skin. She's definitely wearing a full coverage foundation in that picture, and feel free to use any foundation that you like. I think the e.l.f. Satin Finish foundation that I have used before, that's a pretty full coverage, and I feel like it will give the same effect as in the picture. But like I said, my skin is very dry at the moment, and I'm also not the biggest fan of foundation, so I'm gonna apply this L'Oreal True Match Nude Plumping Tinted Serum that has 1% pure hyaluronic acid, which definitely my skin needs at the moment. Dot this on my face. I'm gonna use a little bit more than normally just to get a little bit more coverage out of this. And then I'm gonna use a damp beauty blender. A damp beauty blender is gonna give you more coverage than a dry one because it soaks in less product as you're blending it in. I have actually been using this every day, and it really just feels like skincare, and my skin really seems to like it. And it's a really good color match for me as well, because it is light coverage. It's a little bit easier to match to your skin tone. There, that just gives me an even base. And then I'm gonna go in with my e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer. I'll actually use this because I keep getting paler and paler the closer to the winter we get. I'm just going to use this one to cover any like scars or spots or anything like that. And then I will use the same beauty blender to blend this concealer in. And under my eyes I'm gonna use a different concealer to give that really bright effect that Adele has in the picture. This is a very contrasty and like contoured makeup look there. And then I'm gonna use this very, very light concealer, this L'Oreal Infallible More Than Concealer in Porcelain that I used on the lids, for priming the lids, as an under eye concealer and to like brighten the center of my face in general. This is really full coverage stuff, so you really don't need that much. I'm also gonna apply in this area. If I remember correctly, this dries down pretty quickly as well, so you don't have that much time to blend. I am blending to my background at the moment. We're gonna apply some contouring and like some bronzer as well. So I'm gonna add some color back into my skin, but I just want this area to be very, very bright. I used this powder last week. This is the L'Oreal Infallible 24-Hour Fresh Wear Foundation in a powder, and this is the lightest shade, Ivory, and I have been using this because I just really like the finish of it, but it just is too dark for me, sadly. So I'm keeping it so I can use it during the summer when I have a little bit more color in my skin, but right now it's just way, way too dark. So I'm using the Maybelline Matte Maker powder in Classic Ivory, which is a much lighter shade. And I'm just applying this wherever I applied that concealer. It doesn't look like she's really wearing any highlighter. She does typically have a very matte makeup look. So I forgot to highlight the center of my nose, and I only need very little, so I'm using the concealer brush I used for the lids or to carve out the brows before. For contouring, I'm using the Be by Superdrug Sculpt and Highlight Contour Stick in 04 Universal as a shimmery highlighter on the other end that I actually don't use that much, even though it is a pretty shade. You don't get that much product on this either, but the shade of this is just really nice for my skin tone. It's not too warm. And just bring it in a little bit here, under here, and on the hairline. I'm using the Beauty Blender, the end of it, to blend this out. I'm also going to contour the sides of the nose. I'm going to use an eyeshadow shading brush. And this will connect to that eyeshadow here. And then I'll use the Beauty Blender, the sharper end, and just kind of press it in. And because the Beauty Blender has a little bit of like foundation and concealer on it, it's also gonna tone it down. I'm using the Maybelline City Bronzer. I try not to set my face too much because of how dry it is, but I will be using this for some color. And I'll just kind of press this in where I put the contour, and also a little bit closer to the like outer corner of the eye. She does look like she has a peach kind of blush on, and was planning to use this e.l.f. potted blush. I feel like this one would be a really good shade. I actually don't know if I've tried this on top of powders before, so I'm a little bit scared to put that on top of the bronzer. So I think I'll use a powder today, even though I definitely think that would have been a nice shade. I used the Revolution Ultra Blush Sugar and Spice palette, this peachy shade here, and I'll use the same brush that I use for my bronzer, and I'll keep this pretty high on the cheekbone, start from the hairline and then blend towards the center of the face, and just swipe a little bit on the forehead and the chin. That is it for the face makeup. I will finish the lower lash line. I'm gonna use the smallest brush that I use for the dark brown, but I will clean it to a paper towel so that it won't have that dark brown on it. This is just a really good shape brush for under the eyes. And I will put a little bit of this shade called Bare Necessity on the lower lash line to create a small shadow there. And that's really it. And then just a tiny bit of lower lash mascara. Looks like she's not wearing a ton of lower lash mascara, so I'll just kind of press this on my lashes, because my lower lashes they get clumpy pretty easily, and they're also pretty long, so it can look like like a smoky eye almost under the eyes very quickly. So I'll just press this to the very roots of the lashes. And the only step left is the lips. It does look like a very similar lip combo than my favorite lip combo, which is using the NYX lip pencil in Nude Beige and then the e.l.f. Seriously Satin lipstick in Creme. So that's what I'm gonna use. But I think I might have to go a little bit darker on the lip liner, so I will try first Nude Beige, and then if I need it to be a little bit darker, I'll use Nude Truffle, which is basically a very similar shade, just a little bit darker. So I'm starting with Nude Beige, and I'm not gonna overline on the outer corners, only on the like Cupid's bow part. Okay, I'm gonna color in my top lip with this as well. And I will definitely need the darker lip liner, so this is Nude Truffle. Yeah, that's a lot better. And then on the lower lip, I'm gonna use a little Lisa Eldridge concealer hack because I have downturned lips, which means my lips go like this. I'm gonna cut off the end of the lower lip with a little bit of concealer. This is the Rimmel Match Perfection Skin Tone Adapting Concealer in Ivory. And just go at a little bit of an angle to cut off that corner. And then I'll pat it in with my finger. I'll do the same thing down the top lip, so I'll first use the Nude Beige lip pencil and I'm overlining the very center of the lower lip. And I'll color in the lip with this as well. And then a little bit of Nude Truffle. I will color in the outer corners with this Nude Truffle, this darker one. Use this concealer to clean up that line. I actually really like this. It has that like brush tip applicator. It's really nice for cleaning up the lip line. And then I will just apply the e.l.f. Seriously Satin lipstick on the center of the lips. And this one is not necessarily the best lipstick to use if your lips are really dry. I'm just warning you. It can really emphasize the dryness. And this is it. This is the finished recreation of Adele's beautiful makeup look. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed yet. And let me know in the comments down below what you think. How did I do? Are you excited for Adele's new music? Because I saw that new song is coming on 15th, so let me know what your thoughts are. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I hope to see you here next time. Bye!